most people, especially Christians, Muslims are more willing to work with Christians.
True.
Especially us. We have this belief that, no, if it's not from this, we can't work together.
Very true.
And I think that needs to be worked upon.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? Welcome to another beautiful episode of Leadership Podcast with me, Stephen Akintayo. And today, that's boss. I don't know whether this will be the most controversial episode, but I mean, as you know, one of the reasons why I started the podcast was to really educate people, outside of the controversy. Let's just learn. Let's just, and I have today a very good friend of mine who's, been doing this for a while. None other than Daddy Freeze.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stephen.
My people always attack you. What are you doing, Daddy Freeze?
Sometimes I wonder how you cope, because if there's anything I learned from you, Dr. Stephen, it's the fact that you can be friends with a lion and an antelope and manage both sides. And the lion will not think that when you are hanging out with the antelope, you are talking about him. Because even I worry. I lost, especially when I came after Nigerian pastors.
Yes.
I lost, at the initial stage, I lost 100% of my business.
Wow.
Everything went like that.
Wow.
It got so bad that after like 2 years, I used to MC.
Yeah.
And I used to MC because my rates were high. I used to charge 1.5 million when dollar was 150 naira.
Wow.
And I used to get, if I were a little cheaper, I probably would have gotten maybe 2 a month.
Yeah.
But I used to get at least 1 a month or 1 in 2 months.
Yeah.
So we're talking of a revenue of at least $10,000 every 2 months, which is like $60,000 a year from just one aspect.
Wow.
It went away. Till now, I've not MC'd since 2019.
Serious?
I'm telling you. I had 1 or 2 gigs here and there as please help me as favor.
Yeah.
Then there was one, the one that they actually agreed to pay.
Yes.
They paid me up front.
Wow.
Then the flyers came out and everybody said they were not going to attend. And because I hadn't made a lot of money in a long time, as they pay me that up front, I just chop the whole money. The guy now come, I won't come begin the fight. The guy say, no, we have agreed. The guy say, no, if it's about the upfront, don't worry, you can keep it. People literally said, if Daddy Freeze is MC, I'm not attending the event.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that.
That happened to me and PT too. I had the event in London. So, the buzz, the registration was heavy. As soon as I put PT like this, in fact, people were calling other people that knew me and saying, "Want that guy? He's been building his reputation. He should not destroy it. He should not." It was so bad that even after the event, of course, we didn't get the number of turnout we want. People came to my comments and I said, "I hope you've learned your lesson now."
But in London, PT is a mover and shaker.
He is.
Maybe because he's more.
He is, but
out of the Nigerian community.
Yes, exactly.
He's more.
Yes, he's general.
Yes,
people of color and even non-people of color as well. But I had a huge Nigerian community. Church people, and they just like nah.
Are you serious?
No, at all. They were. So I get it. And I think for me, my argument is always, if you're going to be progressive, you must be willing. And I think it's probably my business side that also helps. Your business is to everybody, whether you believe in what they believe or you don't believe in what they believe. And if you can't have the mindset to be able to say, I'm catering for a larger audience. It's not just the audience that believe in what I believe. And I see a lot of us who are Christians even not growing our business because of this mindset. Because you now package your business to only suit people of your faith. Instead of understanding that there are different audience here and there, and your business should be flexible to take good care of them. We have an investment program. We're doing a webinar. People say, well, we that were Muslim, we need a halal investment. We don't believe in getting returns. And thank God, if not that, our group CEO is a Muslim. So I say, well, you come up with a halal, thank God you're a Muslim. There's no way I will understand. But if you don't have that level of inclusion, and a broader mindset, and you think, once I disagree with this person, I don't want to see them. We cannot talk. I think that's part of what is destroying this country.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally. And I'm going to hang this on our Christian brothers and sisters. When the last time I was in the UK, I was with PT.
Yeah.
The reception he gets from British people and non-Africans is overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So when you said this about him, it just brought me back home. It's the way our people think.
Yeah.
Remember Foursquare? That's the late developer.
Yeah.
There was a story that was online then. I actually watched it. That house that collapsed, you know, a young man went there, the Ikoyi house. A young man went there for an interview and he spoke and, the guy liked him and everything. I said, okay, what church do you attend? The guy said, I don't go to church. I'm a Muslim. I can't work with a Muslim. I can't work with a Muslim.
Wow.
I'm not joking. I watched the video.
Wow.
And the guy was, disheartened, walking, was at the gate when and the building came down. Same day. He was at the gate. He did a video. I don't know. The video, I think they pulled it down at the end of the day. So one of the reasons why I work with you, I work with very few real estate people because real estate in Nigeria has its own kalu inside.
Very true.
And I don't want you to pay me 5 million naira.
Yeah.
I help you sell a 5 billion naira product. And then there's problem. They don't know you, they know me. Now 5 million I chop inside this money. So I worry about real estate. But two things that make me work with you this long, if your people call me, this is my most busy season. I am the one that told Farouk, I said, you know what? Just give me a tentative date. If it's Dr. Stephen, if it means me walking down from Lekki, I will walk down if the traffic is too much.
I appreciate that.
And there are two things. One, you don't give absolute claims. Anything can go wrong. True. You can wake up tomorrow and they say landmark has been landmarked for demolition. And you didn't get the deeds illegally. Nothing was done illegally. It just happened. Then two, your inclusivity. The fact that you work with me, I know that they will have called you and say, Dr. Stephen, what are you doing with that guy? And the fact that I see people of different faiths with you, like Farouk, for instance, is Muslim. And he has been with you from when I started working with you till now.
True.
But most people, especially Christians, Muslims are more willing to work with Christians.
True.
Especially us. We have this belief that, no, if it's not from this, we can't work together.
Very true.
And I think that needs to be worked upon.
I agree with you, because even amongst Pentecostals today, you see people who are faith movement, grace movement, and some faith movement believe grace movement is a new version that is about to take everybody to hell. And my argument is, if it's this same Christianity we are talking about, the foundation is on love. And even if somebody is wrong, the ethics and ethos of Christianity is correcting in love, is extending love, extending grace. So when you start taking that away, I'm not sure what else, really is, because that's really not Christianity. We can disagree. We may not even agree on the values, but we must keep extending love and hope that the person, we at least can begin to find common grounds. But let's get to the podcast. Who is Daddy Freeze. Many people don't even know your real name.
My real name is Ifedayo.
Okay.
And I started life as a young boy who wanted to be an astronaut, then a pilot, and all those many things we all want to be as kids. You know, I was born into a very strict family. My mom is a professor of law. My dad is a medical doctor.
Where's your mom from?
My mom is Romanian.
Okay.
And my mom is the current vice chancellor of Ifedayo Olarinde University. And she's been vice chancellor for like 8 years or so. I think this is her second tenure.
Okay.
So I come from a family of academics.
Okay.
And you can imagine when I didn't toe the academic line.
So you've always been a rebel.
Yes. It was war growing up.
Wow.
For me. At a point, they thought I was retarded.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't
focus
on,
school.
I didn't understand why I needed the YDX. You understand? Another week has passed. I've not used the YDX to do anything. So why do I need this, the YDX?
Yeah.
Why do I need to draw and label grasshopper?
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So I was rebellious. And
are you the first child?
First son.
First son. How many female?
3 sisters from my mom. Then my dad has another 3 from another woman.
Okay.
So Namibi first. So all eyes were on me. And I was...
So again, your sisters are older. 3 of them are older.
They're all younger.
So you're the first child?
First child.
Okay.
Yeah. So my immediate younger sister is a lecturer in Elizade. She has a PhD in economics.
Wow.
The one that followed that one is a medical doctor, works with the NHS in the UK. And the last born is a lawyer, also in the UK.
Okay.
So
you're the only one that...
I was the only one that didn't toe academia.
Wow.
I barely had a BSc.
Wow.
After that, masters, nothing. Even the radio, I worked on radio for 26 years. I have no qualifications. I just learned on the job. She used to talk. I opened the mic, let's talk. And I did it for 26 years.
Wow.
You know? So, I was self-taught. Everything I know. If I want to learn something, I just pick an interest in it and start to learn it by myself and make a few mistakes here and there, and then you get it right. Radio, when I went to Romania in 1996 and hung out with one of my cousins called Gina.
Okay.
And she was having this little radio show on this little radio station in the village where we're staying there. And I followed her there. And for the first time, I actually saw... I had no future ambition because I couldn't play football. I wanted to sing, but sing where, sing how. I could rap, but rap to who, where, nobody. You understand? I was in the early 90s.
Wow.
You understand?
How old were you at this time?
I was about 18.
Okay.
So I followed my cousin to the radio station and I saw what they did. I said, oh, this is a job. You people just talk like this. You can
and they pay you.
And they pay you. I've just seen what I can do in my life. So when we came back to Nigeria, I went to BCOS with my 2 legs.
Wow.
To go and see if I could get a job. I said no, I didn't know anyone.
That's in Ibadan.
In Ibadan.
So you grew up in Ibadan or Lagos?
I grew up in Ibadan.
Wow.
I came to Lagos after uni.
Wow.
Yes, so I didn't grow up in Lagos. I grew up in Ibadan. And when I couldn't get a job, I remember one of my mons then, I met him, he was MC and I was performing at some event. It was miming and rapping and the prize was a television. The guy never gave us the television. Anyway. So I met him and I found out that he was working at BCOS. So I went to his house and said, Baba, I want to work in BCOS. He said, there's no space in BCOS, but there's space in OGBC in Abeokuta.
Okay.
That he would give me a link. I should go there and audition. So I went to meet my mother. I said, I want to work on the room. My mother said, no, you have to face your book. I said, okay. do you know anybody in BCS? Mama said, but I said, okay, since you don't know anybody, I know somebody in Ogun State. So give me transport money. I need to go to Ogun State. My mother looked at me like this. So then she knew that with the kind of child that she had, they would just hear say, I go Ogun State. So she now knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, now called someone and said, look, my son is about to go to Ogun State to work on the radio and he'll be going every... Can we just find something local for him? So the person knew Nyonjo Adegbite.
Okay.
And referred me to Nyonjo Adegbite. And Nyonjo Adegbite put in a good word for me. I haven't seen him since then. I'm talking 30 years ago.
Wow.
And I went and did the audition, managed to pass, and they put me on the FM radio, and I started to grow. I was in BCS for 5 years.
Wow.
And the moment I finished, when I finished uni, I just went to Cool FM, Ibadan. So I worked throughout when I was in school.
What did you study back then?
I started with computer science, and then switched over to sociology.
Okay.
I didn't need it for anything. I still don't need it now.
Yeah.
But funny enough, the sociology was useful to me because of the psychology, the sociology itself, the philosophy. And it was useful when I started the Free Nation. And also when talking on the radio, I could talk from an informed perspective. But my degree, I don't know where I threw it. I did it for my parents. I said, okay, people say I should go to school. Take this school. Let me go and hustle. So I came to Lagos, auditioned for a job in Cool FM and in Rhythm. And they took me in both places.
Wow.
So I was now,
which one will I go for?
I've got a Mercedes and I've got a BMW kind of problem. I've got a Rolls Royce and I've got a Bentley. Which one is better? So I remember that night I stayed with Two-Face Idibia Tubaba.
Same Two-Face?
Yes, in Festac.
Wow. So
Tubaba said, both radio stations are very good though. But you be like Cool FM go fit you more. You understand?
Based on what?
Just
because you're cool.
Because I'm just Oyinbo and they have Oyinbo kind of things there. Say just go to Cool FM. Say I think that Cool FM. Tubaba doesn't talk much. He doesn't use many words.
Wow.
He just says just like 5 words. Now you go they join them together for your belly. Say they try to talk with this. And then I went and took Cool FM and I worked there for 21 years.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a long one.
So it started as a very poor paying compared to... Cool FM was the best paying compared to radio stations.
Wow.
But poor paying compared to oil and gas, compared to banking, and compared to those that jackpot and went to do odd jobs and do whatever they needed to do to better their lot abroad. So the first 5 years were rough.
Wow.
As in, my first 4 years, I never went on leave.
Wow.
No be person with chop belle food, they go leave. Make I go leave, make they replace me.
Exactly.
Where will they hustle? They sit on couple. Make I come leave and go sit down for house.
Wow.
Unless I was sick, maybe I took sick leave. My leave, I they go collect them as salary. When you don't go on leave, they used to have that option then that they'll pay you an extra month.
Nice.
So I used to get 14 months salary. Because by default, in December, they pay you a 13th month.
Yeah.
So me, I just got 40. For me, that extra 1 month salary was more useful than going to relax and do what with my life. How much do I have that I'm relaxing? So after that, after my first 5 years, where we're picking pieces and joining them together to doors started opening. So by 2006, 2007, I could now start traveling to the UK on holiday. Level don't change. Even though I struggle, they travel. At least I could now afford to buy a Tokumbo car that had AC.
Nice.
Because my former car did not have AC. So now wind down, I was rough. But I never gave up because this is something I could. From the first day I entered the radio studio. I knew that this was what I was going to do.
Wow.
And I would still have been on the radio till today.
Okay. What
If
led to-
not for our wonderful pastors and GOs. And,
Oh, so you were let go in Cool FM because you were speaking against pastors?
No, I wasn't let go.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of I was relegated.
Serious?
Yes.
Did you have a show again?
They started moving me away from
Peak period.
peak period. Move me to night. And I don't blame them.
Yes.
That they did not even sack me outrightly.
Exactly.
It was the grace of God.
Because their sponsors will stop sponsoring.
No jokes.
Uh-huh.
There's one our pastor, I don't want to mention his name, he likes to speak and command the good English, But they pulled out their commercials. They used to have one concert that they do. They just woke up one morning. And I used to go to their church. I used to pay tithe there.
You've never shared what happened in your former church. What really happened?
To be honest, nothing. It's
You're
just
not being
that.
honest.
No.
Because I feel the genesis of your speaking against pastors started there.
No. What happened was when my first divorce happened, that also lost me.
Speaking.
That also lost me a lot of.
You felt your church didn't handle the issue well.
My church was okay with the divorce.
So what was the issue?
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. When the divorce happened, my ex said a lot of things about me that were untrue. I don't blame her for it because in Nigeria, you can't just say, hey, marriage no work, want to divorce. He must be a monster.
Yes.
If not, they will not divorce you. You understand? And I lost, one of the things that she alleged was domestic violence.
Wow.
Now, in all
That's
fairness,
a serious crime. Though.
Yeah. In all fairness, we used to fight.
Okay.
And the fight used to get physical.
Wow.
But it was us, sometimes I find it hard to pin domestic violence on one person when one person hold knife. You understand? You wanna go rack to protect. Sometimes it's protection, sometimes it's aggression, But it wasn't painted the exact way it happened. And I lost clients. People were like, you know what, go and deal with this.
Wow.
So I didn't have work. So I sat at home.
So you lost clients. Wait, that's from public anchoring events?
No, more of my corporate clients.
What were you doing with the corporate clients? Brand ambassador?
Not really brand ambassador, just radio shows.
Okay.
I used to do very well.
Jingles.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
There was, when dollar was 150 naira to a dollar, there was a company I was doing a radio show for. They were paying me 100K a day.
Wow.
Every day for 4 years.
Wow.
5 days a week. So we're talking about like $800 a day.
Yeah.
You understand? And that was one of the clients I lost. I lost. All my corporate clients didn't want to. Some came out clean and said, Baba,
you can't blame them.
this is, you understand?
Yeah.
So that left me with a lot of time on my hands.
Wow.
So I used to sleep with TBN on, Trinity Broadcast Network. I used to watch a lot of gospel and I used to do a lot of work for church.
Yeah, you were a church boy.
Yeah.
Let's put it straight.
So the more I watched, I now started noticing that things were not adding up. Okay, there was one thing my pastor did. He said that I went to church one day. Two things. One, I was supposed to MC something for the church. And then they called me 2 days before. They said, Baba said you should just calm down, know that at least while this your matter is. And I'm like, because I used to read Bible a lot, I was like, John chapter 4, the woman who had 5 husbands and was living with a man who was not her husband. Christ did not stop her from evangelizing. Me, now only one, I never do 5. Una don't they stop me from, as in, I didn't understand. This divorce happened. My pastor and his wife actually spent about 4 hours with me and my ex
To try and
reconcile. And I said I wasn't going back. Because for me, when my ex packed out, I was living in a company house. So she packed out in the full glare of the company. I swear to God, if she had not packed out in the full glare of the company, I probably would have considered just for the image. You understand what I'm saying? So when you pack out and you don't open me for everybody, they laugh. People gathered. I saw people gathering to watch. You gave them a show. Now, there's nothing to go back to. I don't know if I'm making sense. There's nothing to go back to. Okay, since you've now gone, let's work on this going. Before, since no many people know, some people think, oh, they are still divorced. You know how it happens. Some you can convince some, but you see, when you give them a show, you have convinced them that, oh, and thank God there was no internet then. I have been on Insta blog.
Yeah, of course. You have been the
you understand. So after that, for me,
did you guys have any children together?
2 kids.
2 kids. And who are they with now?
They are with my ex.
With your ex?
Yes.
Boy or girl?
One boy who's about 23.
Yeah.
And a girl who's about 20.
If you look back, what do you think was your mistake in your marriage?
My choice.
So you feel you married the wrong person?
I feel we both made bad choices about each other.
So you felt you were never meant for each other?
In hindsight, with the small wisdom that I've gathered over the years, I probably wouldn't have married her or advised her to marry me.
Why?
At that time, I was immature. I was 24, going on 25 when I got married.
Oh, okay.
And she was pregnant. And you know what they tell us? So you don't give person belay, you go marry her.
Okay.
You know, that mentality. And then you marry her and then, you don't really know how to handle a marriage. With wisdom now, I can. And also because my current wife is also not young. She's 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
So she too don't see life. So
both of you,
patience, we know when to bring out patience.
Yes.
But as
There's
kids,
forceful patience.
yes, you've seen life. You know what it is like out there. So for me, we made bad choices getting into the marriage and then maintaining the marriage itself. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. We didn't manage it well. More from my side, because I was young and I was in the entertainment industry and I was surrounded by women, so I didn't make the very best choices. And she too wasn't as forgiving as she would have been.
Thank you for your honesty, because again, most people wouldn't have been dishonest.
Yeah. Sometimes I blame her, sometimes I blame myself, sometimes I blame the two of us, but we had no business getting married. And when we did, we had maybe 1 or 2 years but it was always cat and dog. You understand? And she had her own faults too. So it was, the two of us were ill-fitted for one another.
For anybody watching this and has that kind of experience, what's your advice? They should divorce?
Divorce is not good though. It's another ball game. It will drain your essence. The thing is, make better choices.
So you can only advise those who have not gotten married.
Yes, but you see, if you are in a bad place, yes, I'll advise you to leave for your sanity.
At least there should be a separation. But if there's physical, I think there should have been a separation, don't you think? But if I had done that
separation route,
yes,
I might not have been able to move on.
Are you
because
sure?
that separation route it will hold you back 5 more years. Unless I separate and I then move on with my life, but we are separated, which no other woman will want to enter your life when you are just separated, you are not divorced or in view of divorce. Why am I saying this? Because I am 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 10-year-old son.
Mm.
if I had not moved on with my life, would I have been able to get a 10-year-old son by now? If I had not moved on at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that separation hangs you in limbo.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? You understand? For me, the marriage was over the day she packed out in the full glare of the public. Because then there was nothing else we're mending. You understand? For me, it was more of, we dey fight, we know they talk, but we dey go church for Sunday.
Yeah.
We dey fight, we know they talk, but once in a while, we'll go event together. So there were the gossips here and there, but once that gossip has been established that, these people are no longer together, then why are we now forcing it?
So are you blaming your pastor for not allowing you to anchor events?
That
What would you have
led
done?
me
What would
to,
you have done if you're in the position of your pastor?
I would use John chapter 4 as my backup. If Christ used a woman who had 5 previous husbands.
He didn't use her, he just counseled her, he communicated.
No, he
her.
used her to get to the whole town. After talking to her, she went and brought everybody from the town.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he said.
He had a conversation with her.
Well,
a conversation.
I see your angle.
Now,
I see your angle.
If you read,
because technically she was like his marketer and
yes. Now
went out to
and the conversation he had with her. If you read John chapter 4 as against John chapter 6, when he now had that same conversation with his own disciples, and out of 72, 60 left him. That conversation he had with the woman was more receptive to that conversation. I'm the flesh and the blood. If you drink me, you will never thirst again. When he had that same conversation with his own disciples, they say, but this one don't know what they talk about. And they left him. So he could see that there was something special about this woman, despite the fact that morally she was not the signboard on a gate that says.
But wouldn't that be encouraging more people to not live as a morally sound?
I don't see why a divorce.
There are pastors. I have a pastor friend, and his interview is tomorrow. And because there's a person in his church who has gay tendencies, and he's been working with the guy is improving and all that. But everybody says, his church is where gays go now. He's the one, he's the pastors of gays. Now, don't you think those are some of the things? And I mean, your former pastor was somebody of high repute, and
to be honest, it's a divorce. You understand?
Yeah.
The marriage no work.
But remember, it's a divorce with an accusation.
Yes.
I don't think it was just the divorce.
No. Let me tell you, I didn't blame him because what it did to me was it opened my eyes to question the reason why.
Yes.
And that was when I started my scriptural journey.
I get you.
And
I was right with my prediction.
You see, it gave me a scriptural insight, and I didn't quarrel with my pastor then. When I quarreled with him was much later.
Okay, what did you do?
When I tried to explain to him that you guys have gotten this church system wrong. This was maybe 3 years later.
Yeah, but the argument would be
I wasn't talking. Now we had gotten to tithe. We are no longer, because if I remember the last time I had a conversation with him was about an hour. It was about tithe. I'd stopped going to his church.
Okay.
You understand? It was about tithe. It was about, but we're still friendly. It was about tithe.
Up to now?
No.
Okay.
It was about tithe. It was about pastors flying private jets. It was about pastors owning schools. You understand? And not and members of their churches cannot attend these schools. That was our conversation. So we had moved past that. But when I now went public with my tithe thesis, he now attacked me on his pulpit.
Okay.
So our fight, I can say, started from my marriage only opened my eyes to the errors, or what I believed to be errors then in the way it was handled. But we never had any bad blood. The bad blood started when he climbed his pulpit and then attacked me. And then me too, I climbed my social media and I attacked back. And then he had a concert and somebody came to the concert and insulted me in the concert. And I went to my social media too and I dragged the person that insulted me. So it wasn't about the divorce. I wouldn't say he handled it poorly. I would say he did his best when it came to the divorce matters. As power, as in power reach, he do. I would never fault him on that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think because no. Me and him still talk. We still talked several times before then. I wasn't going to his church anymore.
Yeah, but you were hot. The only reason you were not going to, you have also you have also said that he had told people to stop asking you to host their events.
That was after the tight fight.
That he then said that.
No, all that was, you see, the tight matter started when I went public with the tithe. And before I went public with the tithe, we spoke for about a week. We spoke a week before that, when he was like, look, you've gotten this thing wrong. And I'm like, no, you guys have gotten this thing wrong. So we still had a conversation. You understand?
I get you.
So the problem started when I went on Linda Ekeji's podcast and then spoke about tithe. That's when all pastors fought back, big and small. The biggest GO to the smallest mushroom church under a bridge. Everybody fought back. Everybody fought back.
Yeah.
And when he fought back on his pulpit. You understand? And I also fought back. So then it was like battle line was drawn. Now, before I even fought back, that was when they withdrew their jingles from the radio and said that they will not put their money, church money, on a radio station that supports. They will not put tithing money on a radio station
that doesn't
support tithing.
Which is fair.
I wouldn't say it is fair.
It is.
But okay, so.
Okay, why do you think it's not fair?
Then the way I handled it was also fair. So we dragged ourselves.
Because this is a leadership podcast, and part of my core focus here is lessons, right?
But you, Dr. Stephen, will not have withdrawn. You will not have withdrawn.
Because I'm not in charge of a church. If I probably was in charge of a church, I probably would do the same. You need to understand that I run a circular business, right? So it gives me some level of liberty. And I used to pastor too. I've pastored before. And I'm not sure if I were pastoring, I was going to agree. Though anyway, I never owned a church.
You are right.
I never owned a church. I used to pastor under a church. They gave me a branch.
I probably wouldn't myself want to.
Because you will look at it to say, hey, this guy is against us. We can't be supporting somebody who was against us.
In all honesty, now that you've said it, I probably agree with you.
Yeah. It's easy for me because I'm running a circular business. It's just that my personal faith and belief. I believe in tithing, I believe in church. I'm a church guy like you. And honestly, why I understand you, even though I don't always agree with you, was I've also gone through my own fair share of hurt
from church.
Right? And
my own heart came from this is the truth, guys, and everybody's telling you shut up.
I still will argue that I think because what led you to the heart, anytime you start questioning something, there is something painful there. You're not going to question something you enjoy. You see my point now. And that's a lot of what has happened. Even for me, I've discussed this with church leaders that we need to start healing people because sometimes our crisis management is poor, right? And the way we manage crisis end up making people to start, wondering, okay, I've been loyal because we are human. I've been loyal to this church for this long. And it seems as if they are pulling back. Do you see the point now? I don't think it's fair. Even if I'm wrong, the whole concept, and that's why you see me keep emphasizing the concept of love, because our cornerstone of Christianity is love, right? And love is, the real love is without conditions. So if we really want to go that route, how do we balance loving people, particularly when they're in crisis, particularly when we think what they've done is anti-church values, right? And how do we nurture them to healing? I think those are the areas the Nigerian church needs to improve.
I agree with you, and Nigerian church also needs to improve on doctrine, on scholarship, on by scholarship I mean they need to start applying scholarliness to doctrine.
Okay.
I took my time to study. When I say study scripture,
well, you're not the only one that studies scripture.
I've not met a Nigerian pastor that knows scripture.
I
said no.
By your definition.
No. They might know Bible, but you see,
by your definition.
No, you see, there's what you call a scholarly consensus. Scholarly consensus is people have sat down with the papyruses, they've sat down with the codices, they've sat down with the original. How do I put it? Scriptures. What's left of the original scriptures? And they've been able to agree with the data. You understand what I'm telling you?
I get you.
You can't say you know Bible because you've studied King James from beginning to the end. Until you study in the original languages.
So I give you an example. There are people who study MBAs and never started a business one day in their life. They understand all the theologies. They have business plan. Most of us who run big businesses today never had a business plan.
Church is different.
No, just hear me out. We never had a business plan. We never had the formal trainings. Okay, and at the end of the day, we still run the biggest businesses. Yes, of course, at some point when our business got to a level, we then needed those education. Some of us even now needed to employ people with those knowledge, right? But we couldn't start and scale our business with the knowledge. Because some of these things at the beginning, we defy those theories. Somebody to formulate those theories, somebody to formulate and interpret. And we interpret based on our lenses, based on our bias and our prejudices.
I will lean on
Matthew
4 when Christ had an encounter with the devil. Every exchange was the scriptures say. When the devil tempted Christ, he said, the scriptures say. Christ's response was, the scriptures also say. How do we know what the scriptures say when we've not taken time out to study the scriptures that Christ was referring to? You need to understand the politics of Christianity. Christianity is the religion with the most political undertone. I'll give you an example. Christ is a Palestinian Jew. The region where he was born is Palestine. And Palestine was under the control of Alexander the Great, who was Greek. So Christ is was a Hebrew Aramaic speaking Jew, but none of his sermons were in Hebrew Aramaic. They were in Greek. Why? Political reasons.
Yes, because
then it was moved to Rome. And then in the 400 BC, 400 CE era, Jerome now translated the Vulgate to Latin. And that is why, for instance, if you see my bio, you see the word Lucifer there.
Yeah.
Christ was referred to as Lucifer in 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 19 in the Latin, translated from the Greek phosphorus. So Christ was called Lucifer for 1,200 years before King James came and translated to English. Now 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 19 was now conveniently translated to Morning Star, and Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 was translated to Lucifer, was left as Lucifer, even though Lucifer appeared 4 times in the Latin Bible. And so when you see that, you realize that if you don't know the original languages, you will call devil God and God devil. And that is just one of the many examples. By the time you start studying history, you start studying history of the area of scripture. Do you know that if you study the Sumerian texts, if you study the Mesopotamian text, if you study the Egyptian text, you will struggle to find a historical evidence of Moses and an Exodus leaving Egypt. It doesn't exist in history. It's a struggle to put it together. And that now brings us to the fact that, or to the argument that, was Moses really a historical figure or an allegorical figure? And until we're ready to have these discussions, and why are these discussions important? Because Animal Farm, pig spoke. I don't know if you've read Animal Farm, George Orwell. Pig spoke, cow spoke, chickens spoke. Do chickens speak? No. Do pigs speak? No. Does that make Animal Farm a bad book? No. There's a context that the author was trying to use. So we now have to bring in that scholarly approach. Was this Moses story an allegorical story? If the answer is yes, what is the real meaning of it? Because Nigeria is the clear example of, we have so much spirituality and we can't do anything with it. 50 actors have died in the last 3-4 years. None was raised. Many were sick for months before they died. None was healed.
So who do you think healed people? The pastor?
We can't have, when you bring Panadol, let's work with logic.
But there's nothing logical about spirituality.
Oh, there is. The logical is that it's not working.
No, nothing logical about
Let me ask you a question. I put this to you, Dr. Stephen.
Yeah.
100 women. What is the survival rate for 5 years, breast cancer stage 1, if discovered and treated with modern medicine?
I don't know.
99%. What does that mean? It means if you have 100 women with stage 1 breast cancer and you give them the right therapy, in 5 years, 99 of them will be alive. Let's work with this projection. You have 2 sets of 100 women, 100 here, 100 there. 100 women, you tell them, we're going to treat you with only modern medicine. You are not allowed to pray. You're not allowed to fast. You're not allowed to speak in tongues. You're not allowed to read Bible or Quran. You only come, take medicine and exercise and follow a regimented diet. 100 women. Then we take another 100 women who have the same stage 1 breast cancer. And then we tell them, no modern medicine. You can't take anything that is more than Panadol. You cannot take. You are allowed to fast. You're allowed to drink Goya oil. You're allowed to drink holy water. You're allowed to climb to a mountain to pray. You're allowed to have people come and speak in tongues with you. You're allowed to have night vigil. But you cannot use any therapy that is more than Panadol. I put it to you. Which of the 100 women will be alive in 5 years? The ones praying or the ones using medicine?
I've had the case of a man who, true story, who had stage 4 cancer of the lungs, and he was given 6 months to die. And this man got comedians in his succession, was very rich man, for them to just start cracking him up, and they would come to his house, they would laugh, share jokes. And of course, 6 months came, he didn't die. So he extended them to another 6 months. Cut the long story short, years later, the man did tests. Cancer was gone. My argument is, you can't remove the place of a man's faith in something. And that's why I said, sometimes
you can't
say faith is logical. There's nothing logical.
My argument
in faith.
is, Dr. Stephen, I want us to come back to the argument.
Yes.
With modern medicine stage 1, you have a 99% success rate. You can't beat that with faith.
Again, you don't know whether they had faith. So here's my argument. Here's my argument.
You know, when this is peer reviewed.
I know. You are talking science, and I think sometimes that's the problem. We can't separate science from faith.
I believe in faith,
and
you can't sell it.
Just hold on. There is science. What you're talking about is science. Even many of these, we need to study history, we need to study Latin.
Mhm.
It's still science. There's science, there's faith. Two different things. Can both...
What in
Hold on,
Nigeria today?
just hold on.
What is the success rate of faith?
Just hold on. Can both...
What is the success rate?
Can I finish?
Are we richer than the people who are scientific?
I will get there. Can both move concurrently? And I'm saying yes, they can. That people can have faith and can balance it with science. They will even move faster. My life is that of balancing faith and science. I believe in science. I believe in faith. And I'm using both. Right? And my argument is we need a balance. Because if you pick, and that's why it speaks to see your logic. If you take a seed and then you have, that same seed, and we put it on this table, a seed of mango, and then we start praying from now till tomorrow, the seed will not germinate. Right? If we take that same mango seed and we put it in the right moisture, the right soil, the right water, the right sunlight, and we decide not to pray,
it will work.
It will grow. It will germinate. So here is the argument. If we still plant that same seed, right sun, right environment, right everything, and then choose to then still pray. Do you see the point now? Yes, maybe it would have been 100 normally without prayer. Maybe you can get 110, 120. And that's so. When I hear church people, I'm hearing saying, "Leave science." Do you see? When I hear people like you, I'm hearing, "Forget faith, only science." And I'm saying, can't both work together? Because ultimately in life, the just shall live by faith.
By faith.
Everybody success. Your rebel, I call it mental rebellion, paid off with the way your life is now. Okay? But is everybody who has been rebellious from childhood,
has he paid off?
Has he paid off for them? The answer is no. What was also instrumental in yours is faith. Some element of faith. You genuinely, yes, you may be rebellious, but you believe in some of these things.
Yes.
Genuinely.
Yes.
And somehow it worked.
Yes. Now, Dr. Stephen, I agree with you. I'm also a man of faith. My problem with Nigeria, though, is the investment when it comes to manpower, when it comes to finances, into religion.
I agree with you.
It is too much. There's no result.
So here's my argument. I think people get what they want. Ultimately, and that's part of why we're doing this kind of podcast. The African people, whether you give them Christianity or you give them Islam or you give them idol worshipping, want mysticism. It's a cultural thing.
I agree with you on that.
You understand what I'm saying? How many rich people have people just concluded that now money ritual I do? Nobody get that kind of money. Right? Because we just want to believe there is something mysterious that just makes the job easy.
So here's my what I bring to the table.
Okay.
First things first. Christ's ministry is about repentance.
Yeah.
It's about love. It's about forgiveness.
Absolutely.
The Nigerian church system, especially the prosperity doctrine, is about you're going to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
You're going to be healthy. And if you examine scripture properly, the parable of Lazarus was a poor man who was covered in sores but still made heaven. The disciples were mostly poor most of their lives. Timothy was sick so often that Paul had to advise him and said, drink a little wine instead of just water. So the principle behind Christianity is, somebody asked me a question, said that the phrase, what's the problem of Nigeria? I say Christianity. He said, how? I said, it's the biggest problem we have. He said, okay, so what's the solution to Nigeria? I said, Christianity. He was like, what do you mean? What is Christianity? Christianity is love. Dr. Stephen, if I love you, I will not cheat you.
True.
If I love you, I will not lie to you.
True.
But false Christianity turns greed into a form of need.
I agree.
Now, if all of us lived like the church lived in Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 4, where everybody sold what they had, and those who didn't need, who didn't have, received, those who had gave, there was a society where everybody had something.
But where do you leave the scripture that said the poor will always be in our midst? And this was said by Jesus himself.
He said it as an example when that woman came to wash his feet.
Yeah, because now, she was pissed off. Like, why will the OG?
Also remember
were
that
pissed
this
off,
same,
why will
this same Christ
perfume be used on Christ?
This same Christ, said a rich man cannot. It will be easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than a rich man entering the kingdom of God.
In what context?
In the right context. You see, I took my time out to study the proper linguistic expression.
So
of the camel.
Here's my concern with you.
Yes.
To start this conversation.
Sorry, doctor. I wanted to also add something to that. Let us remember that when the young man who had obeyed the law and had done everything came up to Christ and said, what would it take for me to follow you? And Christ said, take everything that you have and give it to the poor and you will have riches in heaven. So when you look at the body of scripture, like you said, in proper context, let's also remember the love of money is the root of all evil. Those who go after money find themselves hurt themselves with all sorts of things. Let us also look at Christ saying you cannot worship God and mammon. You will love one and despise the other.
I have a question for you. Is that it frees a poor man?
No. So I'm not for poverty.
So I don't get this
Dr.
context.
Stephen, I'm not for poverty.
Yeah.
But I am for eradicating poverty. And the only way you can truly eradicate poverty is what Canada has done, is what the UK has done, is what Switzerland has done, is create a community, create a society that functions. Instead of one Dr. Stephen rising here, one Daddy Freeze rising here, it is a system where everybody...
Who created that in Canada? The Canadian church?
No. But since we have so much religion...
So let me give you a context, right? At least I get your angle. And I think you also skip something in your analysis.
Okay.
Which is, how did Europe industrialize? What came before the industrialization? Religion.
Yes.
What came before American industrialization?
Religion.
Religion.
And when the industrialization came, religion left.
Yes. I'm not against that. Trust me, that's not even my concern. My argument is whether we like it or not.
Yes.
This revival that has landed on our shores will eventually raise a generation of industrialists. Mark my word. It may take a while, and the conversation already has started. Because first thing is that people begin to, first of all, lead idol worshipping. Of course, religion will still create its own version of problems. But
its own version of idol worshipping.
Yes, its own version. But certain dimension has left. You and I know that in certain generation, it's about who get more power. Okay, you could if you go out, sure say you go come home. Because by just looking at somebody one eye, the person if you just do it for you are dead.
Dr. Stephen.
Right? you get where I'm going now.
Are,
yes.
Kabiyesi Afe Babalola.
Yes.
Who grew up in the 30s.
Yes.
And he said that Nigeria was much safer when we were worshipping idols than it is right now. There was more love.
It was safer.
There were fewer people cheating each other.
It was safer, but I'm saying to you, industrial revolution is what we're talking about here. That the next thing you will see in Nigeria, mark my word, is still going to be industrial revolution. Because some people have to accept some form of religion. When you look at let's look at China, for example. Their communist thing, right, was a form of religion. That's why communists and religion don't stay side by side.
They banned religion, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point, because communism itself is the only religion communists want you to have.
Oh, yeah.
You get the point. But what followed, whether you like communism or not, okay, was at some point, it has to still deliver industrial revolution. And we've seen it. So this argument, and that's why for me, I'm not against those who are making this kind of argument. I just think they should do it respectfully.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I've changed
yes.
Sorry, Dr. Stephen, I want to ask you a question. 1960, Nigeria.
Yeah.
We had newly discovered oil. We just discovered oil 3 or 4 years prior. We had cocoa, we had groundnut pyramids, we had palm oil, we had cash crops, we had wonderful arable land, we had manpower. What made Nigeria, when Nigeria was handed over to us, the pound was about equivalent of the naira, while the dollar was weaker than the naira.
Yeah.
I met a weaker dollar to a naira. I remember when I was 4, 5 years old, my mom came with dollars and nobody at the airport agreed to carry her.
Wow.
Do you understand? What is this? Please bring naira.
Wow.
The Nigeria was so good that I have an uncle who had a British passport. How did he get his British passport? There was no, before 1960, there was no Nigerian passport. So anybody who needed to travel would travel with a British passport.
Yeah.
So what happened was, after that, you had the option to renew your British passport and be a British citizen.
Yeah.
But everybody threw their British passports away because there was nothing. We had this beautiful country with it. But my uncle, for one reason or the other, decided to keep his British passport. That's how all those ones that threw it away, then that's how they lost.
Yeah.
Now, between then and now, what destroyed Nigeria?
I'll ask you a question. Population growth.
One, what else?
Yeah, population growth.
Population growth. Let me put some things on the table.
Population growth was, for me, number one, because and I'll give you the context. Even up to today, when you make this analogy, we're not fair. You say, oh, see Dubai. What's the population of Dubai? Real Dubai locals are less than 4 million. Right? If I had to grow the economy, they have to rely on foreigners
coming. I can give you statistics for Nigeria's population.
I know. Just give me some time. Right? There are. The only person who has been able to show us that you can have a high population and still create change is China. But even them had to ban population growth. Had to create a number, because Nigeria doesn't even know how many people she has. So how do you even plan? Sometimes I laugh when I see government official of states that has 20 million people. You see, they say, well, we are proud. We have successfully created job in our internship program for 50,000 people. I'm like, Egbabi care. 50,000 in 20 million, that the 20 million, according to Washington Post, in the next 70 years, it's going to be 80 million. Like, what are we joking here? Right? So, first of all, we are not having a grip on our population growth. We are not even being intentional like India had to do. So, in the case of India, okay, we may not be able to control this population because there's also a social, cultural belief around it. India hasn't still banned population growth. But we can export our population, and they ultimately even become the source of income for the nation. When you look at Silicon Valley today, most of the CEOs are now Indians. And they are Indian, proud ones, not the ones that will now start speaking against their country. Of course, there are issues we should speak about. But the ones who are still proud of where they are coming from, still figuring out a way to have a link with their heritage, even though they are now Americans or they are now British. So those are one of the issues we all want to run away from. We want to compare Nigeria with 1960, but we're not facing part of why Nigeria is really struggling to work is that we are growing at an alarming rate and we are not necessarily making plans, right, at the rate of the growth. Roads are not coming at the rate of the growth. Agriculture is not expanding at the rate of the growth. Education is not moving at the rate of the growth. Infrastructure, telecoms, all of that, satellite, is not.
To put this into perspective, in 1960, Nigeria's population was about 45 million, while the UK was about 55 million, and Romania was about 19 million.
Okay.
Today, the UK is 65 million, Romania is 20 million,
Jesus,
while Nigeria is 220 million.
Which we haven't counted.
Which we haven't fully
Exactly.
So in 1960, the UK had 10 million people more than we did.
Wow.
Today, we have more than the combined population of UK and Romania times 2.
Wow.
So yes, population growth is a problem. But you see, one of the things that really destroyed Nigeria is greed. We don't have enough to go around.
Yes, of course.
But the little we have, now some people, they chop them.
Yeah, that's true.
So when I say Christianity is the solution to Nigeria's problem, not through prayer, not through fasting, but the Bible describes greed as idolatry.
Yes, it is.
If we remove greed
through
the church, if the church can preach an anti-greed message, Nigeria will become the haven it was supposed to be.
I agree with you 110% on this one. So we're on the same page on this.
Love. If the church can preach love, Galatians chapter 3 verse 28, there's neither Jew nor Gentile, free or bond, male or female, we're all one in Christ. If the church, instead of running the church like a business, because in all honesty, to run a successful business, you need some level of monopoly.
Absolutely.
That is why some people from Redeem will not marry from this. They want to keep it in the family. If church could preach love, the Igbo man and the Calabar man, you are one. The Hausa man and the Yoruba man, you are one. Another big problem in Nigeria is solved.
I agree.
So if you ask me, the church preaching the message of Christ, not the message of prosperity. Prosperity is like coal tar. Why am I saying that? It is a byproduct of distilling crude oil. When you build with love and you build a society, what will happen at the end of the day is you will get prosperity as a byproduct. Nobody drills for crude oil just because they want to get coal tar. They drill because of kerosene, because of petrol, because of aviation fuel. Then when they finish distilling, at the bottom of it, you will have your coal tar.
So I love that you study sociology and you understand history. I am saying that sometimes we are just jumping the gun.
Okay.
Because if we understand the evolution of societies, we will not even be having this conversation about I'm talking about Nigerians generally, about being too hard on Nigerians. Because we are not studying evolution of nations. America. During the Great Depression, one of the hated men in America is John D. Rockefeller. Because the guy was rich then, name it. Was just excessively rich. And people were dying, people were poor, people were this. Henry Ford, of course, Andrew Carnegie, of course, Vanderbilt, of course, J.P. Morgan, of course. And people hated them. And they even had a club of these stupid rich people, and all of that. But today, 100 years later, who were the men who really built America? It was still these same guys.
Now,
because the companies they built created the revolution that gave birth to the middle class.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's still my argument. That one is, and that's why sometimes people argue about Dangote. I've never met the man, by the way, but I really admire him. and Dangote and monopoly and all of that. I said to them, if America had killed John D. Rockefeller business before it really evolved to be big enough to now say, oh God, at this point, let's divide your business into 3 or 4 or 5, which Standard Oil now became Shell, Chevron, Mobil, and all that, right? We would not have had the industrial revolution in the oil business. If the same thing with the banking sector. JP Morgan became so powerful that even the president relied on him to bail out the real guys. Anytime there's a recession in the sector, you are now begging one man
to come and bail out.
To come and bail out. But these people, of course, and that's my argument, everybody wants to be a politician. I'm saying, what is there to regulate when we don't have anything? Because if you really understand what legislature and government really needs to do, is that at this point, this guy is becoming big. Let's kill the monopoly, right? Let's begin to create. But Nigeria doesn't even have those kind of people you really want to now break into pieces. So now say, let's break their business into pieces. Let the workers demand for more wages, which is what happened with Henry Ford, where auto workers wanted more pay. When the more pay came, what happened? Middle class was born. It was still the middle class, unknowing to him, who were able to afford to buy his car, which led to more people buying cars. But all this, I'm saying, will eventually still happen in Nigeria if we all, right, play our part.
And if the church preaches Christianity,
I agree.
The followership of Christ,
I agree.
Everybody has his part to play in the church.
I agree.
It's the same way everybody has his part to play in the economy. The beauty of history is it repeats itself, but it can be prevented if studied.
True.
When Elon Musk wanted to design Tesla, he did not go and design tire.
Yeah.
He did not go and design windscreen.
Yeah.
Those things were already there.
True.
He used already working templates and revolutionized the powertrain of the vehicle. If Nigeria today, instead of allowing us to slowly evolve from the JP Morgan, Rockefeller, 300 years ago America to where it is today, if we carry the formula, we can do what they did in 300 years in 50 years.
I agree, but I also want to agree. I argue that one of these we need to preach, and I think you've said this a few times, is that the Nigerian church has to now deliberately invest in raising entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I also see how some of them, not all, have also just respected politicians, and you're having politicians indirectly laundering money through church, right? And so trust me, I agree with you on some things, not in all. Okay, and I'm saying if emphasis is now, we want you to make money legitimately. Don't come to church and drop tithe or offering without us knowing the source of your money, without us knowing what exactly you're doing with money, how you got the money. If we begin to preach this and people begin to say that you need to make money legitimately, you need to explain how the money came. We need to know what you're doing actually. Yes, we will see the kind of changes that we really need to see as a nation. So I agree with you on some aspect. The part I did agree with you, and I know we've moved past that, is we must do it respectfully, because whether you like it or not, you and I, Yorubas, are Moluabi. Right? And we're taught to be respectful to elders. And so I may disagree, but there's a way, we go up, particularly we in Yoruba land. I mean, other tribes have their own, but Yorubas have a way. And that's why I tell people, I said, it's difficult to have Yorubas have issues that won't be resolved. Tinubu and Obasanjo are not necessarily best of friends, but when it's needed, Tinubu is still go and visit him. And you only find that in the Yorubaris, because at the end of the day, you see your oldest, you still need to. So, yeah, there are things we need to work on in the body of Christ, but we can be respectful in calling those things out.
I agree with you, Dr. Stephen.
Number two, for me, is that whether you believe tithing is biblical or not, tithing has become a major source of proper church administration. I'm also not sure you've ever heard this, right? That Landmark University, for example, my younger brother, our last born, got over 5 million naira from, he did 5 years and never paid a dime in tuition fee. Oyedepo paid it. And not just for him, there were 1,000 in his set. And and they paid. Covenant University is cheaper than the primary school my children attend. And the primary school they attend is not a church school.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper. And it's important to also know that how many people have gone through.
Most private universities are cheaper than Lekki and
no, it's not even,
Island schools, secondary schools.
Exactly. Even primary, mine was even primary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you then look at also the scholarship, because sometimes because we are not in a system, right? It's easy to just be against and just see things from the outside. People have no idea how many people went to Covenant University on scholarship. How many people struggle to pay? He went to see. You can bear you witness. And that's why sometimes when people talk against church, I'm saying if really a pastor isn't doing well, of course there are some pastors who also have manipulated members. But there are certain churches that if really there's excessiveness with their pastors, the members, particularly the quality of members they have, we call them out. Bishop Oyedepo, for example, is one of those that has been called out so much on. He has a private jet, he has this, he has that. But those who are close to Bishop will tell you categorically, Bishop Oyedepo can be in the office and reads about a book and he wants to print it for his own home library. He will buy the A4 paper with his money, not church money. Right? He does not touch church money. He's not been on salary since 1987. But he has raised people, and I'm one of them. On his birthday, some people gather and say, we're buying Rolls Royce.
I had no problem
right?
with that.
I know. I'm just telling you because people won't know that. It's because of advent of social media that you knew that the Rolls Royce was a gift. On a normal day, you just see him drive Rolls Royce now. How will you know whether people gave it to him or not? And that's what I'm trying to explain about some of the, because we just see the outward and we don't understand the back end. But the people in the system understand the level of discipline, the level of financial prudency some of these people have used to live their life. But because you are not in that system, it's easy to just look from outside and say, you see, he has private jet, he has this. But you don't understand what happened. Even myself on his birthday, I knew what I do. I don't make such public. Right? So if you see those things, you just say, you see, church money, tithe money, it's tithe money they use, they're enriching themselves without understanding the back end, right, of some of these things. Because these people have come here after 40 years. There's nothing anybody can say, whether they like your face or not. 30 years of journalism, doing it effectively. You can't just smell certain poverty anymore. Whether you get what I'm saying? Because
absolutely,
time has a way of just, once you are diligent, you're hardworking in certain things. Final question, so we can wrap up, because we'll be here for over an hour. Daddy Freeze is now 80 years old.
Yeah.
What do you want to be your legacy?
It's always bringing clarity to Christianity. Let it be under our watch. Yes,
that is the legacy.
That is my legacy. That 200 million people could actually understand what Christ died for 2,000 years ago. Instead of, because like I said, Christianity is the solution to Nigeria's problem.
Yeah.
If properly applied. Because tithing works, Christ never collected tithe. He never told the apostles to collect tithe, never told the disciples to collect tithe. The early church never collected it. But what did Christ actually tell them to do? Go and repent. What did Christ tell them to do? Live together as brothers. What did Christ tell them to do? Love one another. What did Christ tell them to do? Greed is a form of idolatry. If we can imbibe those things, and sometimes for you to be able to, if I wanted to renovate this place, I would have to tear down structure.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I cannot come and paint on top of this. I will have to tear this down, tear what's behind it down, so I can put what is really supposed to be there.
So for you,
there.
that's what
So
you want to be your
sometimes-
legacy.
Yes, because
That you tear down the body of Christ to build something
to
better.
build something better, not necessarily to build something better, to renovate it using the same structure on ground.
Yeah.
But we need to tear down the greed message.
I agree with you.
We need
that
to-
one I agree with you 110%. Honestly.
Because
we need to tear down the greed message.
if we see more
I
of,
agree
you are
on
talking
that.
about Bishop Oyedepo and what he has done for people. If we see more of that, because whether you like it or not, we are also fed from the church system that one day Bishop Oyedepo woke up and saw that some churches were not bringing in money and he went to close them down or sack the pastor. We saw that in the news. And they did not manage the social media angle well to say, okay,
I agree.
This is what really happened though.
I agree.
Because when a pastor leaves a
I
church,
agree.
he's bitter.
Yeah.
He feels that, they sacked me. I will go and grant an interview.
Trust
and
me, I agree.
you understand what I'm saying? I've had my encounters with Bishop Oyedepo when I was rude to him, and I apologize for it, by the way. And his boys came after me. Bishop Oyedepo never came after me personally. But his boys came and they tried to rattle things. And but you see, what am I trying to say is, he himself has behaved like a father. But some of the people under him are not like that. They are more, we go there, go scatter everywhere. Go.
So all the people under you now are nice.
No, they are not. So what I'm saying is, we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
I might not do it in my generation.
Absolutely.
We need, whether you like it or not, and we need to remove the investment of man hours and finances from religion. We need to put it somewhere else if we really want this country to grow. We are spending too much time and money.
I agree. I agree that, and I've said it as well to pastors, that we need to begin to tell people, go get a job, go start a business, right? Don't come to church Monday morning 9 a.m. to say you want to pray. Go do something, because Bishop Oyedepo will say that any type of faith that makes God absolutely responsible for the outcome of your life is an irresponsible faith, because true faith is your role and God's role. So you have to play your part, and any revival without social transformation is a waste of time. This is by Bishop Oyedepo. So in reality, some of this, most people don't even know who Bishop Oyedepo is, for example. Are you aware people have been sacked in church, right, for reading the Bible during work hours? Because, yes, in the church. Because they had administrative responsibility and not to read the Bible during work hours. Right? So that's the kind of mindset. But you can start a movement along the line. There will be, and nobody is perfect, and no movement is perfect. But my point is, let's all look for how we can build and not necessarily tear down to a point where the foundation is already eroded. And some people's argument, even with your message, is that if you're a Muslim, you will not dare be audacious the way you are. Because, there was a man who came out and said he's the first gay imam. They shot him dead in South Africa.
Absolutely.
Right? So that sometimes Christianity allows for so much, and that's, of course, some extremist view, allow for so much that anybody can just talk about Christianity. Is Islam perfect? No. But you are even scared to say certain things about Islam because it has some dire consequences.
Let me, first of all, I'm not a scholar on Islam, one. And whether we like it or not, the excesses in Christianity, we don't find them in Islam.
Okay.
How many imams have private jets? Let's tell ourselves the truth. Yes, you see, you have
Is the issue really private
no,
jets?
but what I'm saying is,
you see my
I
argument.
think we pushed Christianity too a little too far.
No, my argument, I don't think the argument is a private jet, because when you put it like that, it sounds that way. Where, you know,
But Dr. Stephen, how many imams get private jets? How many imams get Rolls Royce?
Because the structure of Islam, hold on now, the structure, no, and that doesn't necessarily make it good or bad.
No. Now I want to ask you something.
Of Islam,
you can never go to a mosque.
The structure of Islam is not denominational. We keep forgetting this. Nobody has a private or a dedicated mosque they attend. Have you noticed Tinubu will come to Lagos, and today he went to the mosque in Ikeja. Tomorrow is the one in Ikoyi. Next tomorrow is the one in Isaleko. Because it's not denominational. I'm talking about Islam now. Because it's not denominational, you can't say I have members of a mosque, because anybody can just enter a mosque, pray, and you're out. Now, should Christianity take that model? You know, you go and ask Paul, you know, because those were the people who began the doctrine of how Christianity necessarily run. I mean, Paul started the whole denominational thing with Roman Catholic, right? So we shouldn't just compare without also looking at the foundational elements of these different faiths. But I want to ask this question, though, and I think it's important. Will you also say that generally now, not church, generally, because I also think I want to review, some people are modeling their life after you. And it's also, again, it's leadership podcast, so that they can also understand evolution, where I want to be controversial, whether intentionally or unintentionally they find themselves there. Will you say being controversial is a blessing or a curse? Now, if it's a blessing and it's been a blessing to you, how do you think people who necessarily want to go your route of, you know, create controversial movement? Of course, even if genuinely you have deep convictions of what you want to do with them, because most controversial movement, sometimes, no matter who is behind it, there's also that element of deep conviction. Even though, of course, there's also that consciousness of, hey, if I don't go the controversial route, it might not even, you know, gain the light of the day. But also, how do you balance it?
First things first, it's a blessing and a curse. If you try to be controversial, you can't succeed. You naturally have to be a rebellious person to be controversial. It is inborn. You don't try to do it. You understand? My views are my views on religion. I have controversial views even on investing. I have controversial views even on
so you're naturally controversial.
Naturally, I am I don't bend into a box.
But you've monetized it. Compared to many people who are just controversial, and it's not necessarily.
How did I monetize it? Because I had no other source of income. They took everything else away.
So even the monetization was not intentional.
It wasn't intentional.
It just evolved.
Left to me, I'll still be working on the radio.
Okay.
Left to me, I would have continued working on the radio. It's just that I noticed I was relegated to the back. And then I'll give you an example. I worked on the radio for 21 years and my payoff was 3.7 million. And the day I went to collect my 3.7 million, I charged one person 3.7 million for an hour.
Wow.
You understand? On my own time, in my own space, at my own convenience. Then 21 years of work. This is what you are giving me after 21 years. So the radio cannot pay or give the influence I have. I'm probably more influential than some radio stations.
True.
You understand?
Absolutely.
And when you discover that, and you have no other choice, and someone says that if I'm going to pay you, it started by accident. I'm doing this thing, I'm doing it free of charge, and somebody says, you know what, I'm going to pay you for it. Really? And I charge a little fee. And then I now get many people coming. Then I now up the fee. And they're still paying.
I'm asking you this question because of Very Dark Man. He hasn't monetized his, controversial approach to whatever he does. How do you, first of all, what do you think of that brand? Because how do you see the evolution of that brand? Because sometimes some of us who watch, we just don't even know what to make of it, really.
First of all, I don't like talking about other brands so that I don't get misquoted.
I know.
But one thing I like about his brand is he stands for what he believes in. And
so there's also that genuine conviction.
Yes. Like you said, faith. He has faith in what he does and he believes in it. And he has, whether you like to accept it or not, brought a lot of sanity. Everybody's afraid right now. There are things that people will do before and tell you go to hell. Right now, people are thinking 2-3 times before they enter business deals. People are thinking about ripping other people. How would it, if it comes out, how would it be perceived? So he has brought value to the society.
Okay.
Whether we accept it or not, we cannot deny the relevance and the genuineness of his fight for the downtrodden. And it's not everything that is money in this life.
True.
Money is a currency.
Absolutely.
There are other currencies.
Absolutely.
So I like the fact that he has refused to monetize his platform.
But what's the evolution you see? Because again, just like yours, at some point, the only person everybody is afraid of to talk about that is that they freeze, really. Right? But today now, because there will always be the next kid in the block or on the block. So how do you see your advice now, the evolution of that brand?
It's hard to predict a brand. Right now, I can say he's on course and he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
And when you are convicted about what you're doing, you will grow into where
you will now settle.
You will find where you fit in and be able to operate. Nobody does what he does better than him.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to religion, some people may try, but if you've taken time out to study like I've studied, you can't corner me. You understand? So the more you dedicate yourself
to something, you will become the best.
You will be. Yes.
Finally, looking at your own evolution, your own controversy, will you say you did more good than bad? Because for every movement, there's also collateral damage. Right? And sometimes we don't even know the impact of that damage. Unfortunately, sometimes when we are really reviewing it at our latter years, that you're looking back and say, maybe that part shouldn't have been done. Are you already sensing some part that you say, maybe I should have done this part better? But generally, do you think they were more good than bad?
I think I did a lot of bad.
Okay.
Rude to my elders and all. But my bad is 10%.
So you think your good is 90%? Okay.
If I were to score myself, because now I've given people a template of reference.
I get you.
You understand? Okay. I've brought history. I've brought theology. Do you understand? If I came only with history, you say, oh, it doesn't. This Bible, I know it. Do you understand? I've created room for dialogue. Let us have conversations. One of the things that was destroying Nigerian Christianity is the fact that once person don't turn father, Gio, Papa, if he says, I said this once, that if a Gio's phone was hacked 10 years ago, not now anymore, 10 years ago, and the hacker typed eat shit, let's say one of the top Geos, somebody just hacked their phone and went and typed eat shit. The next thing you start seeing people with their face inside the toilet. My father, do you understand?
My father in the Lord.
My father in the Lord. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I've been able to break
opium of the masses.
I've been able to an extent to break that. Yes, I love but you've seen people, I love daddy, but this thing with daddy talk, I no agree. It did not exist 10 years ago. Anything they said was law. And I remember one particular Geo, after preaching, he got up from his chair and went, and people were coming to pray to the chair. I'm sure I will send you the video. It got to a place where it became unhealthy.
Idol worshiping.
It became idolatry.
It doesn't make sense.
Do you understand what I'm telling you? At every point, once you have a stone or a block of cement or a person or a chair, you see, the shadow of Paul healed people.
Yeah.
So the aura of a man who was truly called by God, the aura will have an effect.
Yeah.
I remember once as a journalist, I went to see, there was something that they were launching, and it was one top daddy Geo. And he stood outside as all the journalists were coming. I went to represent my radio station. Everyone was passing, would shake their hand. They nearly tore off my hand when I got downstairs. The anointed hand, let me touch it. I'm not joking. Baba, my hand was praying like 100 people. You see, the people outside were his people. So as they go, they just shake us, give us brown envelope, shake us. You know, normal journalists. Waka was young on the radio there. Say they not tear my hand, come out. It was the grace of God.
Because they
wanted to touch the anointed hand. So to an extent, we've brought some sanity. Oh, these are leaders of religion. I might not agree with their doctrine, but I respect them as leaders. And people are able to question them. Okay.
Daddy Freeze, thank you for coming.
Dr. Stephen, God bless you.
It's always fun discussing with you. Looking forward to a new episode. Bye-bye, guys. Love you.
Bye, guys.